Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Tonight we shall focus on the challenge of nation building and the incoming new cabinet. Now, for about 2 weeks, the Senate remained dutiful with legislative business of screening and confirming ministerial nominees, although not without some reservations. Over 3 out of the 48 names forwarded to it by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, this exercise, to many, might just be the first step of putting national issues on the front burner for those who should implement government's policies and programs under the renewed hope mantra. Now, the task for the incoming ministers may be daunting, but hopes are high for a more united, strong, and prosperous Nigeria. But just before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report put together by Joseph Otsen.
Despite some elements of separatism, terrorism, and other socio-economic challenges, Nigeria still stands united and tall as Africa's most populous nation and superpower.
The fact that since independence, Nigeria has remained a united federal state itself is an element of success in nation building.
As a nation with multi-ethnic, religious differences, and colonial legacy, building institutions that would adhere to collective values of the nation has been vital in nation building.
Towards meeting certain ends collectively agreed by the country. Number 1, to maintain peace in the country. Number 2, to ensure economic development, sustainable economic development. Number 3, to bring about prosperity. And number 4, to bring about human development.
Nigeria is blessed with lots of natural and human resources, but enhancing them to paddle sustainable economic development remain a daunting task, with analysts blaming much to disregard the rule of law and lack of accountability driven by individualism.
When someone is arrested for corrupt practices, the reactions you hear, the commentary you hear, the first one is either, is he our kinsman? Once is our kinsman, you must not say anything about it. What I would say, instead of attacking the problem that is a common challenge for every one of us, I attack those that are attacking my person. Right now, we no longer have strong institutions. We have strong individuals.
The new federal government under President Bola Tinubu sees itself as a new hope in the Nigeria project. For analysts, the hope lies in compacting the multifaceted security threats in different parts of the country and initiating policies to support industrialization for wealth and job creation.
Today, Nigerians are complaining about economic hardship in terms of access to food, access to money, access to jobs, access to opportunities. So this government should quickly come up with a holistic economic development formula or plan that addresses the immediate needs of Nigerians, and then in the long term to develop appropriate plans for industrializing our country.
A nation may have dreams, but dreams, they say, are not realized without believing and working for their actualization. Here, a sense of patriotism is highly needed.
Expressing that optimistic view about your country, and if there are challenges, that determination to make sure that collectively with others, you try to resolve it.
Think about a nationhood, not this individualism.
With all hands on deck and all institutions of government playing the critical role of steering good governance, analysts are optimistic the renewed hope would be rekindled for Nigeria. In Abuja, Joseph Otsen.
Now that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests to you. I'd like to welcome to NTA Tuesday Live MacDonald Ikemezie, who is Program Communication Manager, Center for Transparency Advocacy. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Let me also welcome to this program Dr. Omobuya Abraham Breakforth. He is Director General, New Dream for Grassroots Development. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Nigerians.
Okay. Well, joining us from our Lagos studio is Dr. Tunji Abayomi. He is a constitutional lawyer. Dr. Abayomi, it's good to see you.
Still bad.
All right. And also joining us from our Kano studio is Ali M. Ali, a former Deputy Director of Media and Publicity in the dissolved APC PCC. He's in our Kano studio. Ali, it's good to see you tonight. All right, there you are.
Thank you, Cyril, for having me. It's good to be here once again in your show.
Right.
Good evening, Nigerians.
Okay. So, those are our guests tonight on the program. It's about the challenge of nation building as we look at the now ministers designate, you know, the numbers that have been cleared, 3 of them still outstanding, had some issues, but, well, the greater number of the nominees are now ministers designate, and we'll be looking at the challenge of nation building this time. So let's start this conversation. Of course, you do know that at some point in time, you can get to be part of the discussion, but for now, we'll be in the studio. When it is that time, we'll remind you of the process and procedure. For now, back to the studio. Let's begin to look at the ministerial list, the ministers designate. Now, what are your impressions about the ladies and gentlemen who will now constitute President Tinubu's cabinet? McDonald.
Okay, well, what are my impressions? My impression is this way. It's more or less a mixed bag. You know, the other side and another side of it. If you out there, some people are complaining that the people who have been in government since 1999 are still being recycled. That's an impression. And there's other arguments that there are some people in that list that are fresh. And the other impression is that for the first time, we are seeing an indigene of the FCT being appointed a minister. So for me, that's the other good side of it. So it's a mixed bag, and it is also coming with some sort of experience, and perhaps there could be a mixture that will either promote good governance or perhaps mark good governance. That's my impression.
All right, we'll go straight to our Lagos studio and put the same question to Dr. Tunji Abayomi. When you look at the list of the men and women who will be in President Tinubu's cabinet, what crosses your mind?
Hope and hope that the great expectation of the Nigerian people will not be defeated. They are like the former my speakers mentioned. There have been different types of reaction to the list. But for me, I'm not so much worried about who is elected. I'm more preoccupied looking at the future to know what these people, whosoever they are, because sometimes we emphasize what we should de-emphasize, and de-emphasize what we should emphasize. I think it's Albert Einstein who said, things that count don't matter. Things that matter don't count. For me, the issue really is to know where, as we look and as we move into the future, what they stand for, what they stand on, and what they stand with regard to the hope of the peoples of Nigeria. An uneducated person, for example, can be a benefactor to the people, just as an uneducated person can be a benefactor, just as an educated person can become a pestilence. So I think the people of Nigeria should watch them, watch their feet, their movement, their choices, in order to know whether this is a team that will bring us the great expectation.
All right. Thank you very much. Back here, the Abuja studios, we have Dr. Omobuya Abraham Breakforth, Director General of New Dream for Grassroots Development. The President had promised that he was going to put together a team that would address the numerous issues that Nigeria has been facing for quite some time. Do you see that in this team?
Yeah, obviously, Mr. President is a very experienced politician and a leader with a very good track record. The Constitution of Nigeria gave him the power, the authority to give welfare and security to the people of Nigeria. Now the welfare includes health, education, infrastructure, railway, airport, and all of them. Now, he have make his choice. He is the president, he has the constitutional power to choose who he want to choose to work with him, because those powers are bestowed on him as the president of Nigeria to render services for the welfare and the security of the people. Now, he has to choose those he feels that he can delegate his authority to function in the area of providing housing, infrastructure, health, and all that. So for me, I'm believing that he has made his own choice. People he believes, for example, he brought former governors of Kaduna and other states on board as minister, Rivers State and all that. He has a reason for that. So for we as Nigerians, we believe that the people he have chosen are people that have the experience, but he is a miss, just as the first speaker said, it's a misbar. He has brought people that are fresh on board, people that have experience, who are former governors and former senators, or current senator and all that. It's a miss. He missed everything together, even those who even have not much experience and brought on board. Why are you doing that? So that he accommodates all sections of the country, and to see that he render the services could the Nigerian Constitution empowers him to do. So I believe that he has made the right choice. Or what we need to do as Nigerians is to all hands must be on deck to support Mr. President. Okay. And of course, you know that the ministers have been choosing having a dedicated authority of the Mr. President to function in the various areas that will be appointed in the various portfolio. So Nigerians have to also support the Mr. President to ensure that at the end of the day we have good governance. The hope of Nigerians are not dashed.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Well, at this point, let's go over to Kano. Ali, if you're there with us, 45 out of 48 crossed. 3 stepped down for certain reasons, according to the Senate President. What do you make of this team?
I think it's a team that is raring to go. You can see from the screening, most of those who appeared before the screening committee, before the Senate to be screened, you can see they are bubbling with a lot of energy, with a lot of ideas. And some of them, actually, they are veterans of sorts. They've been there before, and they know what it takes to run a federal ministry. Such names like Professor Ali Pate, they were there in the past. Even El-Rufai there is now being stepped down. He was a member of the Federal Executive Council 20 years ago, though his nomination is still in contention. So you see, there is, like some of the previous speakers have said, panelists have said, it's a mixed bag. But you see, you look at the demographics, the interests, and the gender balancing, if you like, if I must, use that word, is a team that is actually raring to go, waiting to get into the business of running government, to deliver on the Renew Hope mandate. If you look at most of the nominees are actually professionals and they're all right. You have them in all fields. Now, of course, there are also politicians, those who have made names as politicians, former governors, but there are also technocrats, people who have excelled in their chosen field. So it's a potpourri kind of thing. And you see that how the challenge now is how to mold these various talents and then get them to buy into the vision of the president as encapsulated in his Renew Mandate agenda. So it's a team, I think, that is bubbling with ideas, bubbling with energy. If you look at it, yeah, a lot of young people under 40, under 45, and then 60 plus also is there. So you have the energy of the youth and the wisdom of the aged. Well, not that aged. So when you have this, then you know it's an awesome combination that would be virtually unstoppable once given specific goals, specific targets. And mark you, the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu will also set targets for each of the ministers designate now. So I see a lot of these ministers designate, like they use this expression that has become a cliche, hit the ground running, because they are bubbling with a lot of energy, bubbling with ideas, raring to go. So I see that happening, notwithstanding some of them that have been stepped down for certain reasons. But I think it's work in progress.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Well, initially it was speculation of who would make the list, who would be on that list, and who would not. Now that's all taken care of. So attention now, I must say, for the public, for many Nigerians, the new speculation is who would get what portfolio. And well, this is happening because we still haven't got to the stage where portfolios are attached when a list is sent in for screening. And some people have described it as, you know, appropriate because the president might well change his mind. But when you look at this list, there are certain areas where you would want to think that certain individuals could be suited for. In some other places you find a number of professionals in certain areas as well. But what's your take on that?
Okay, I am passionate with the appointment of an FCT indigene as a minister. This has not happened before, and we are having it now. And there has been this agitation either to give FCT a mayoralty status, since it's been treated as one of the 37 states you know, in quotes. So, my first shot is that Gisalo, who is an indigene of FCT, should be posted as the minister of the FCT. That's for me. It is not a matter of compensation, but it's something I would think is right to do. Now, outside that, if you also look at the different ministries, if you look at, for instance, works, a tested engineer who perhaps from even past experiences may have done, you know, some good works perhaps in the state or in the parastatals or wherever the person has worked before, should also be in charge of that portfolio. Then again, I should also think that the president should not become the minister of petroleum. He should not. A substantive minister should be appointed to head the Ministry of Petroleum. Hold him responsible, hold him accountable, because in the last past years, people were not able to hold the president accountable, even when the president was the Minister of Petroleum. Now, you also look at the area of health. I think Professor Pate, he's somebody that has been known, who has the international connections, who has the experience, who also has the integrity. If such a person becomes a minister in charge of health, I think he could also do well. I listened to the nominee from Lagos State, who started by, for me, being confrontational to the medical professional and saying that he was going to withdraw licenses of medical doctors who run private clinics. I felt that was, if such a person is posted to that ministry, for now, it might be a challenge because he's already confrontational. So those in the medical profession might not see that as very palatable. You also look just same way, and if you also go to, I don't know the ministries that the president might create or might match or say they don't exist. So if you look at it, then if you go to Ministry of Justice, I do not think that the last minister, I do not think there was a lot of cohesion between that ministry and even citizens, where even citizens began to see the minister as even antagonistic to human rights and all that. So the president has to post a minister that is also grounded, that will not be disobeying the same laws that will make that they should obey, where court orders are given, and the minister will now advise the president against that. That's something we Nigerians wouldn't want again. So the president has to be very careful on who he will appoint as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. So the same thing goes, there are ministries we don't even think, again, information. For me, Minister of Information is not necessarily a ministry where government come to tell lies. It should be a ministry, the person that should be appointed a minister in that portfolio should also be a minister that Nigerians should trust, even when there are issues with government. But, you know, it's not so outrightly telling barefaced lies because you are in that ministry. I'm also looking at culture and tourism. I don't know why they merged it, but I think the president should be able to separate that ministry from information, because culture is the way of life of our people. We should promote that ministry. We should, the president should look at somebody. I think when, I think it's Obuewu also, that Ambassador Obuewu, when he was in that ministry, that was a ministry that people didn't want to go to. But the man, using the carnivals, the Abuja carnivals that has been arrested, and all the other things that tourist attractions that people come to Nigeria to enjoy. So the president should also look very closely to that. So that's my take.
All right. Okay. Dr. Breakfast, any suggestions on who should man what?
Well, I think he has said it all, but I want to say that the president must be mindful who he puts to any of the ministry, because if he puts a wrong person to the ministry, and it will affect him, so he must look at individuals, their capacity, their past record, experience, track record, and their profession and all that. Just as he mentioned, put them to those ministries, because as I said earlier, the president have been mandated by the Constitution to give welfare and security to people of Nigeria. So those ministers are, we call them under public administration, the delegated authority. So they have the president authority given to them to function on behalf of the president. So the president must, not by sentiment, not by favor, but must look at critically and put them to, like for example, like former governor of Abuja State. He did very well in infrastructure, in agriculture. He can go to the Ministry of Agriculture. He can do very well. We saw what happened in the Ebonyi Rice, the agricultural revolution in Ebonyi State. We also saw the infrastructure, what he did. So you can go to the Ministry of Agriculture. Now people like Wike, for me, I want Wike to go to works. If you ask me, because we saw what he did in Port Harcourt. Construction, roads, bridges, he had experience, he had commission projects, even to the day of his handover, it was still commission projects. He's a man that is articulate, he's a man that is focused, he's a man that is project-oriented, a man who believes in infrastructural development. So such a person should go to Ministry of Works. And just as I said also, for me, I don't believe that the Minister for FCT, the former AMAC chairman, Jasulo, AMAC is like Abuja capital city. AMAC alone is like a state. So he has experience. He can be the FCT minister because he has been the AMAC chairman. So I believe, and that also will solve the issue of marginalization, the complaint by the indigenous, the Guares and all that. Making Minister of State will not give the needed result. But if you become the senior minister, so now move away from that. Okay. I want to also say that in a nutshell, that we look forward, because we know that Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man that has experience, and people with him, like the Secretary of the Federal Government, the Chief of Staff, these are technocrats who have experience, who are politicians. They should also advise him, to make sure that the right people are put in various positions. Otherwise, we have problems.
Well, Dr. Tunji Abayomi, you said in your initial comments that you are more concerned with what the members of this team would bring to the table than any other consideration. But if you look at the list and you say, look, could you in any way just hazard a guess and say, look, going by what's happening, we think that some people are more suited in some areas than the others. Although some Nigerians have aired their views on this, and while some say the inclusion of so many former office holders might be a way of recognition for having done well, others don't see it the same way. They say it's just politics. What do you see?
It's essential to appreciate that the ministries fall into three categories. There are ministries that are controlled by law, and the president is bound to follow the dictates of law. For example, he has to put a lawyer in the Ministry of Justice. There are ministries that are controlled by professional dictate, though not specifically controlled by written law. For example, he would need to put a physician in the Ministry of Health because he's the only one that will understand the challenges and the language of health. That may also apply, for example, to information technology. Now, when you take these ministries away, you now have quite a number of ministries that you might say freely given to the president. And he can do whatever he wants with those ministries. For me, first and foremost, my view is that every single ministry is essential. It's like saying, you look at the smallest finger. If there's a problem with that smallest finger, you feel the pain in the head and perhaps even in the heart. My thinking is that every single ministry is essential in the development of a nation. Whatever ministry is freely given, the people of Nigeria should demand excellence, performance, and above all, honest service. Because this our nation, Nigeria. This our nation, I repeat, Nigeria. I'm sorry to say, simply has failed to meet the expectation of our very distinguished citizens. And we need to shine our eyes, the people of Nigeria, to watch the steps of these ministers, because the nation is underdeveloped by the leaders, not the people. The nation is underdeveloped by the leaders. The neuroses that our nation faces are brought upon us by the failure of leadership. So, I think the people of Nigeria should shine their eyes. They should look for excellence in performance. They should look for diligence in performance. They should look for faithfulness in performance. And they should look for honesty in performance. So whatever ministry, a serious-minded person that is given a ministry, we will expect him to take time to understand. I once told my uncle, who is a respected, world-renowned engineer, that I was not good in mathematics. And he laughed. He said, if you read it 100 times, you'll be good in it. And that is true. The dedication of the people, of the ministers to the affairs of the people is essential to the performance and the realization of the great expectation, because the people of Nigeria are different in this time than in the past time. They are no longer patient in this time as it was in the past. So, the ministers should wake up. Things are different now. Let them wake up to see in the future of Nigeria, not the past. I think that is just what it is.
All right, thank you, Dr. Abayom. I'll return to you on some of the matter, but let's get over to Kano once more and take the question to Ali M. Ali. What do you expect of this cabinet that's been seen as a mix? We've heard someone, you've had someone suggest, for instance, that the indigene of the FCT who's on that list should be given that portfolio. What do you think about that?
Well, desirable as it were, I think they say it's only he who wears the shoe knows where it pinches the most. So you would expect that an indigene of FCT would be perhaps better placed to address the specific ills of the FCT. But
That remains at the level of desirability. Being local will not necessarily mean that you'll be able to rise above local politics as to deliver the right service or the right. So it's desirable at the level of desirability. It's good, but then if you look at it, more often than not, when you send a local to administer over the affairs of his constituency, chances are that you get sucked into the local politics. So yes, at the level of desirability is okay, but I would suggest otherwise. Because the FCT now, as it were, is a melting pot, is the home to all Nigerians. So having a local to superintend over the affairs of the FCT is quite desirable. And some of the arguments, they are flawless, but then the flip side is that you may get sucked into the local politics there as to lose sight of the real reason, the focus of the administration. So in as much as the Constitution is clear that there should be a minister from every state, just like now the FCT has a dual status, either that of a state or that of a mayoralty, like someone suggested. So yes, when you are representing a state, you are not necessarily going to superintend over the affairs of the state at the federal level, depending on the ministry given. So, but let me also slightly digress from this original question, because earlier on, some of the panelists were discussing how we have this large number of ministers, the first time in the history since 1999. We've never had this large volume of ministers. And then look at the ministries now. How many of them? Some of them, they were quite large. Under the previous government, we had some of them they called super ministers. The likes of Fashola, they were pretending over large ministries until the second tenure of the former president. Some of these ministries were split to accommodate more interest, more people. For example, under Buhari, between 2015 to 2010, we had Fashola superintending over a very big ministry. We had Rotimi Amechi also superintending over the Ministry of Transport, which also had the aviation under it. They was a minister of state, but by 2019, these ministries were split. For example, the Ministry of Transport was split. The Ministry of Aviation now was created to make it a stand-alone ministry and had a different minister, a senior minister, not Minister of State. So clearly some of these ministries, like education, for example, in the States is already an established norm. You have two ministries superintending over the affairs of education. You have the Ministry for Higher Education. And I think this is important because education over time, I think takes the lion's share, apart from defense. Education takes the lion's share after defense. And as it were now, the nation is literally at war. What I mean at war, in the last 13 years, since the dawn of Boko Haram in 2009, the nation has been fighting an insidious enemy, an enemy that is within the population. You have, like we all know by now, we have, insurgency in the northeast, we have banditry in the northwest, we have a separatist element in the southeast. So all this makes the nation, really on edge. So if you must do that, some of these ministries, you split them to accommodate some of these clear talents, which the president himself over time has said he's a talent hunter. We've seen that ability to hunt for talent, bring different talent, blend them together towards specific goals. He's done that in Lagos State when he brought a lot of people outside even Lagos, specific talent, and then put it round pegs in round holes. We've seen that. And one of the panelists did mention, yes, certain ministries should be superintended by professionals. Certainly you can have someone, an agronomist, for example. An agronomist, you then send into the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. That will be a mismatch. But it's important, like the Ministry of Health should be headed by, someone who is, has a medical background. Though heading the Ministry of of Health also has been an issue of contention. They are doing this interminable rivalry between pharmacists and doctors. Who should head the ministry? Who is the head of the medical team? That is another topic for another day. But if you look at also the Ministry of Justice, I see, it must be headed by someone who is well versed in law, a lawyer, an outstanding one for that matter, because of the intricacies of the law. So, but coming to the Minister of Information, for example, we not expect someone who is unfamiliar with the terrain. Apart from knowledge, also you should have the reach, the pedigree to also manage to sell government programs, persuade the skeptical citizenry, which I think one of the panelists did mention that Nigerians are skeptical, they are cynical, and they are impatient. But I will slightly have a different. Nigerians are very patient people, they're tolerant, and you can see that they, because of this ability to tolerate and expectant, they're expecting the great expectation he did mention. They're expectant, they believe in this government, and that's why they're waiting, they're holding their breath to see how these various talents will be harnessed by the president, who has a proven track record of doing that, and then deliver on some of the mandates, promises made in the New Hope as encapsulated in that document.
I'd just like to return quickly to Dr. Tunji Abayomi in Lagos, because the trend of the contribution by Ali M. Ali brings to mind a controversy thrown up quite recently by the immediate past Minister of State for Labour, who now is a minister designate in this government. And if you recall, Dr. Abayomi, the controversy stirred by Festus Keyamo, a senior advocate, was that the position of a minister of state is unconstitutional. Now, there are so many speculations about which ministries would be merged. You have a list of 48, 45 were cleared. So are you going to have 45 ministries? Are you going to have some? Would you still have the same arrangement where you have two ministers and one is regarded as the junior minister, the minister of state, or the senior minister? Now, going by that controversy, what do you think, Dr. Abayomi? It's still speculative, really, about whether ministries are being merged or separated, things like that. But the question of a minister of state being unconstitutional, that could well play up again here. What do you think?
I think it would be proper to say that minister of state is not defined in the Constitution. That is not to say it is unconstitutional. The prerogative of the president is wide in terms of managing the affairs of the government. The Constitution requires, as a minimum, to have a minister from each of the states of the Federation. But it didn't say it cannot have more than one. Therefore, if the president chooses or decides to have more than one minister, he will not be offending the Constitution. So I will not agree to the position of my learned friend, Festus, or I will say my learned junior brother, Festus Keyamo, that the position of the Minister of State is unconstitutional. I don't think it's unconstitutional. A president can, if he chooses, have even 5 ministers. If he chooses, I can call them. The important thing is that they are ministers, whether they are ministers of state or ministers of nation or ministers of local government. They are nonetheless ministers. The important thing is that he cannot but pick a minister from these states. In terms of breaking up, some of these ministers, I agree with my co-panelists, from Kano that some of these ministries are large. And I can understand why the president is expanding the number of ministers, hopefully. And I think that is also the expectation of the people of Nigeria. Because, I mean, when you put a man in charge of huge ministries like work, Ministry of Works, Power, and so on and so forth, how much really can he do? He's just but a man, he is not a god. So my thinking is that you need to break these ministries for efficiency. You need to break these ministries down and put different ministers in charge in order to achieve the hope or the great expectation.
All right, thank you very much. Well, apart from our discussion in the studio, we also have other reports, and at this point, we'll take the very first of them. This one is from Lagos.
Nigeria has all it takes to maintain its pride of place, and this can be achieved through nation building. This is a collective responsibility that requires collaboration between the leaders and the led.
Collaboration should be ensured between the ministry, the high rank personalities in the ministries, and the professionals in the field.
As members of cabinet are set to come on board, many say the government is not bereft of the right policies and strategies. The pinpoint corruption and lack of implementation of policies has come on setbacks to various sectors, which has inhibited progress towards nation building.
We must address our security. If you don't have security in any country, that country cannot be productive. The second thing we must address is job creation. It is when you don't have job in your country that you have the Japa syndrome that is all over the places. The third thing is that we must address the power sector, electricity. Without electricity, you cannot drive any aspect of the economy.
You have good education, you have good health services. What happened? Economy improve. If those things are not there, we are still wasting our time.
If we want to build a nation, put the round pegs in the round holes. Don't put the square pegs in the round holes.
For other respondents and analysts, they cited certain areas of concern that should not be neglected at all costs.
See small children on drugs. So they should focus on our youth and children.
And they should be ready to work by encouraging Nigerians to be very productive.
Rome, they say, was not built in a day. It is believed that with sincerity of purpose, the incoming members of the executive arm will tackle challenges bedeviling the nation headlong for the overall common good. In Lagos, Amaka O.
All right, that report from Lagos. Next is from Maiduguri.
Nigeria is a nation built on the basis of shared responsibility and commitment to duty by the government and the governed. Quoting from the national anthem, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. This peace and unity was disrupted over the years by insurgency, especially in the northeast, among other factors in other regions whose effects are still being felt as they stand in the way of genuine progress and development. In his Democracy Day address, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu warned Nigerians not to take democracy for granted, calling for a recommitment to selfless service while promising to improve quality of lives. With the nomination and screening of ministerial candidates, citizens' demands are high on better representation and accountability in all sectors to reap the dividends of the democracy, as well as surmount challenges of the past.
One thing that we should emphasize is peace. How can we get peace? Then after getting that peace, that is where development can now prosper. We now look at the sector, more especially the agricultural, where it can take a lot of people out of poverty.
In a society of ours, we have economic issues, societal problem in terms of education, societal problem in terms of political awareness, societal problem in terms of social cultural norms and value. In education, for example, a low kind of a society that has education very low in their system, they will find it very difficult to live peacefully.
The stakeholders further hinge on human capital development, inclusivity, and unity of purpose as innovative way to address these challenges in Borno and beyond.
improve really on this community engagement, especially now that the economy is biting harder on people, and considering the 13 years of insurgency, what other people will feel in other states, our own is going to be even times two in terms of the effect. So the government need to also engage the civil society. You have a lot of international actors here. Let them benefit from this presence and then expertise.
Growth and development is the ultimate goal of any society, which can only be achieved through learning lessons of the past and provision of good governance by the leadership.
All right, back here in the studio, seems to be a lot of work to be done, and the president has drawn attention to it, saying that party issues should take a back seat at this point in time, given the fact that the nominees, some of them, a good number of them are politicians in their own rights. And some people have raised certain concerns, for instance, given the political background of at least one of the ministers designate. Whose program would have the priority? The federal government, which he now will serve, with a different orientation from another party. What do you think?
Well, I just think, first and foremost, whosoever that is appointed a minister is a Nigerian. The person does not live in the space. There is no Nigerian that does not understand the issues in Nigeria or does not understand the problems that we are facing. So the first priority should be patriotism, irrespective of the party, irrespective of leanings. So any person that has been appointed by the president should first think Nigeria before thinking of any other thing. But again, if you ask me, all the political parties in Nigeria, I don't think there are different ideologies. They are just the same pot and kettle. There's no difference. That is why it's easy to 6 months you are elected through one party, 3 months after you are moving to another party, 2 months after you are moving to the same party. The same thing you condemn, you go there, you begin to praise them. So that is their well, if you are appointed a minister, you should face the job squarely, irrespective of where you're coming from. You must treat Nigeria first, strictly. And in Mr. President's wisdom, that was why in the first
rise up to the task of reclaiming our nation, to the task of rebuilding our nation, to the task of the president's agenda of renew hope, to renew the hope of Nigerians. That look, this is our nation can work, we must build our country. As I'm talking to you now, Nigerians in diaspora are very much worried. I'm also the diplomatic administrator for the AFRIDO, Nigerian Diaspora Organization, Nigerian African Diaspora Union, AFRIDO. I'm the Nigeria rep. So I'm talking with many Nigerians and Africans in diaspora. They want Nigeria to work. Nigeria market is the hope of Africa. If Nigeria fails completely, Africa will fail. So we must do everything possible to have a nation. Every Nigerian, not only the ministers, everybody must have hope in this country. We must speak well of our country. We must have commitment to see that our country work. Because if there's a problem in this country, we have to start run away. To where? Which country will take us? Is it Cameroon? Is it Ghana? So this country must work. That's why Mr. President said he is not going to work alone. He needs this minister to assist him. And very soon there will also board appointment, other agencies of government. All this appointment is for them to work, not for self-egotism. So I want to really appeal to Nigerians and all the ministers, this in it. It's not a time for politics is over. It's a time to re-engineer our economy. It's a time to refocus. It's a time to work hard to redeem this nation. Nigeria must not fail.
Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, we would put up the phone lines on air. And that means you can join in the conversation, you can call in. But for now, let's take a quick break. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Right. Thanks for staying with us. This segment, you can join in the conversation. The numbers to call will be on your screen. You can call in, and as we say every Tuesday, if you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point. We ask you not to bother about the greetings. Just a simple hello would do. Just keep those calls coming through and see how much you can contribute to the discussion on nation building, especially with a new cabinet coming in shortly. For now, let's start off with another of our reports, this one from Enugu.
Nigeria, since independence, has made tremendous efforts targeted at nation building. These historical legacies of colonial rule, some Nigerians say, created some challenges for nation building in Nigeria. This concept divided Nigeria into north and south with different land tenure systems, local government administration, educational systems, and judicial systems. Beyond these challenges, political analysts in Enugu say the country's political system since independence has contributed to the hindered national growth and development.
Those that we elected and that will go into these houses of assembly will be men who are committed and determined to uphold the letters of our constitution.
The unveiling of the ministerial nominees and screening that will form the nation's new cabinet was a good development of what the respondents described as fast-paced administration of President Bola Tinubu. With the major economic reforms of setting a new path for the country, the formation of a few cabinets they suggested is expected to drive the momentum of governmental activities.
If we get it right in food production, processing, marketing, we're getting it right. What we drop food on the table of average Nigerian is what the federal government should concentrate on, because the level of importation we're having here is very exorbitant.
To improve the nation's gross domestic products (GDP), experts say the new government and incoming cabinets should continue on the path of private-public partnership in the development of major infrastructures.
We need a total reverse from what we are doing because we are still in old order. Economic situation in Nigeria needs emergency intervention, both international and local, for us to survive the present situation we are in now.
If all these priorities clearly spelled out by the incoming cabinets, Nigerians expect that it will assist in the policy decision and implementation. In Enugu, Kelechi Ochiara.
And from Enugu, let's go over to Kaduna for our next report.
At one time or the other, all countries in the world have had challenges of nation building. In Nigeria, entrenching democracy through respect for the rule of law and consolidating operations of public institutions are now bearing fruit. However, the current democratic dispensation has witnessed challenges to nationhood over allegations of marginalization, ethnic, regional, and religious tensions by sections of the country. The ministerial list presented by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has tried to address some of these issues.
And we hope they will actually key in and contribute meaningfully toward the development of this great country. And I hope they will give the leadership of the president all the necessary support and cooperation so that to ensure that they contribute toward the development of any sector that we are being assigned to.
Should try as much as possible to do their own bidding so that Nigeria will survive and develop accordingly. Because we have the resources, we have the manpower. What is lacking is good leadership, really. We can see what Nigerians are saying all over, especially about appointments in various positions.
So nation building also entails the fact that they have to really make sure that they carry the workers in the ministry along, and they carry the people that where the projects will be cited along.
For Nigeria to take its rightful place, what should members of the incoming cabinet focus on?
All for to the ministers again is that they should be able to understand the dynamics of the Nigerian society, because their failure to understand that makes them to be lopsided within the time they are to execute their offices.
So, my friend, we need praise in this country. Our people have to be patriotic, God-fearing, and do justice to this country according to democratic norms.
We hope all those who have been nominated to serve in the executive are Nigerians, and we hope that they will also commit themselves to ensure that they have a larger vision for a greater Nigeria.
All the ministerial nominees have been screened by the Senate. The expectation is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is now set to address challenges of the country. Dauda Mohammed.
Right here, let's go over to Kano and speak to Ali one more time. Leadership, that's what all who have spoken have emphasized, and not about personal callings, ethnic or religious leanings. That kind of leadership that Nigerians say they deserve, do you see the state providing it for those whose antecedents you are familiar with?
Leadership is work in progress. If you are to rate our leadership on a scale of 1 to 10, since the dawn of this republic, you would say, yeah, there are instances of missed opportunities, but also there are instances of dazzling brilliance, leadership at its finest. Leaders who could hold their own anywhere on the surface of the earth. But you see, with politics has its own inadequacies. Sometimes politics really throws the best of leadership. Politics, sometimes it throws people who are actually misfit to lead. People who have no previous leadership training, because leadership is not an accident. You have to be trained for that. But often, in most, third world countries, you see people getting finding themselves in leadership position by fate, by chance. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say yes, since the dawn of this democracy, we've had brilliant leadership being provided. Some people have really stood out. I don't want to mention names, but I would say the present commander-in-chief is one example of leadership that has excelled and has endured in the last 23 years. It's a leadership that has endured over time, built other leaders, because the mark of a leader is the ability to build other leaders. A leader who cannot build other leaders is not really that of a leader. When they say, for you, a leader is someone who can instill in his subordinates to continue even in his absence. We've seen this much in the present.
On the line, so we might just take him before we return to Ali Amali. Bright is calling in from Lafia. Hello.
Hello.
Bright from Lafia, go ahead.
Exactly. What we can see among the nominees there, they are all old former governors, former ministers. These are the things we are expecting to see fresh ideas, but we want to see old materials being recycled back again into various ministries. So he promised, the President Bola Tinubu promised that youth will be among his cabinet. But apart from Stella Okodite, who is now being alleged of security report, no any youth yet in the cabinet there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bright from Lafia. Well, back here, McDonald.
I think Betta Edu is also a very young person. Betta Edu from Cross River State. Yes. I think she's about 36. She's also a young person. And, this issue of leadership is not a one-size-fits-all thing. So any of the ministers, if I relay back to the question you asked our friend from Kano State, it should be more or less of a shepherd kind of leadership. Somebody who will motivate, somebody who will give confidence to people leading, somebody who will influence positively, and from there we achieve results. So it's not leadership. Says some people are not leaders. Every person is a leader depending on the perspective. If you're not a leader in your house, you might be a leader in your office. So at one time or the other in someone's life who has become an adult, who has been appointed by the president, you must have been a leader somewhere. And like the last caller is saying that they're circulating old people and people who have been into politics. I am sure all the leading candidates before the election, they were all old politicians. They were either former governors, former this, former that. So why did we not complain? So now why are we complaining? But the issue is that, yes, as I said at the beginning, that this is a mixed bag. We have some young persons, we have some politicians, we have some whom we think are not politicians. I do not know the politics they play behind. But I think at the long run, we need leaders who will inspire confidence and trust amongst us and deliver and give us the result, irrespective of their leadings.
All right. Dr. Tunja Bayomi from Lagos.
Gentleman that called from Lafia, his position is actually not correct. I think we have over 10 of the nominees that are less than 50, I believe. Less than 50. One of them, for example, is from my state. Is only, I think, is 41. So quite a number of the ministers are actually young and enterprising. So that's not correct. Now, with regard to the issue of leadership, leadership is, in my book, State and Citizens, I have already said that leadership is perhaps the most essential factor in any community or in any human community. In fact, I would say in any living community. When we look at the way even animals take care of their young ones, we begin to wonder why, in many cases, leaders in our communities are pitiless. Our hope, our real hope, is that things will be different for this nation. The people of Nigeria, they need compassionate leaders who know what they are doing, who are preoccupied with a vision of greatness. Because in reality, you begin to wonder, a nation as endowed as this nation, why really are we where we are? We are where we are because of people, not because of material. We are where we are because of people. And that is the most essential factor in the greatness of a nation. Is it that we don't have wealth? We have. Is it that we don't have water? We have. Is it that we don't have land? We have. Is it that we don't have men and women of great capacity? Well, we see as citizens outside this country the triumph of Nigerianity outside the nation. The issue. And I think that that is where I believe the president needs to focus his attention, to build people that are good enough, sufficient enough, capable enough, determined enough to bring about the renewed hope that he is talking about. The issue for this nation is the issue of the right people to manage her, to govern her, to lead her, to change her, to give her inspiration. Once you do that, I believe that Nigeria will be one of the greatest nations in the world.
Thank you. Let's get back to the phone lines now. Yes, we have calling in from Jos. Yes, hello. Just tell us your name and go ahead.
Yeah, hello, my name is Pintam from Jos.
All right, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think it's about this matter. What I was suggesting, even though President carry everything put there, if that person can work for us in Nigeria, I think I'm very better. So that is my own contribution.
Okay, thank you. It doesn't matter. Anyone can be there as long as they do the job they're appointed to do. Well, that's what so many of analysts have said here, especially from the reports that we got from the states. But again, back to Dr. Brickforth here.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, everything starts with leadership and ends with leadership. The leadership issue is key. Just as our friend from Lagos said, our major problem in this country is the issue of leadership. And we have seen the antecedent of our president, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what he did in Lagos. Even when the federal government withdrew his federal allocation, he was able to do a lot of things in Lagos to keep Lagos running. So I believe that it's on board now. After the election, I know they're in tribunal, but constitutionally is the president of Nigeria at the moment. So we believe that the ministers that are coming on board will give the needed leadership. Because our nation, to be honest, our nation is sick. Nigerians are suffering. Things have gone out of hand. So, for me, if I'm the president, I will have declared state of emergency on the economy of this country. That's the truth.
Okay.
But as a matter of fact, I believe we have confidence in the present administration that they will do justice to the issue. We have confidence in the leadership of this government, led by Ahmed Tinubu, because we have seen his track record. We know that incident. We have seen how he provide leadership, how he built the party, how he run the party, and come on board. So we believe that he will do justice to that. So Nigerians are looking forward. This is a new government on board. Ministers emerging. So Nigerians are looking forward to see this government addressing the issues as it were.
All right. Gerard is calling in from Imo State. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Sheriff. I love the topic of the day, the challenge of the nation building and the incoming ministers. In all sincerity, the challenge we are having today is continuous recycling of old men in the society. Many of the ministers' nominees just left office in less than 4 months, and they have been appointed again to be ministers of the Federal Republic. What happened to the steaming youth who supported this administration? What happened to those people who staked their life in this administration? Does it mean they are not qualified? What must it be? These people that just left office in less than 4 months, after 8 years, in their various states, why must we continue to propagate and allow the old people to rule us? What happens to the future of tomorrow? What is our hope? Why must we continue in this? Does it mean we don't have any background information? Does it mean we don't have any education? Does it mean we don't have any knowledge about governance? It is still the problem. The youth are always used during election, and after election, the old men and women will take over, and they will continue to run errands. This needs to stop. Okay. In the new Nigeria we are looking at, I think new breed, new blood should be infused into the system, so that we can see if we can have the Nigeria we are all dreaming of.
Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, thank you very much, Gerald. And let's go back to our Kano studio. Ali, what's your take?
Well, I think the last caller really, I think he's not listened to what the panelist from Lagos was saying about the involvement of the youth. I think the youth they are fairly represented in this list of ministers designate. The youth are fairly represented, and the president is mindful of the disproportionate growth, population growth of the Nigerian youth. 65% of the nation's population is under 30, according to, I think, the National Board of Statistics. And that's quite, has a young population, as opposed to other countries of the world, especially in Western Europe, where they have aging or aged population. So the president is mindful of that, and that's why If you look at the it's nearly 50-50. If you look at the population of the youth in the ministerial list, representation. After all, the youth, according to the United Nations, between the ages of 18 to 45, and they are fairly represented in this ministers designate. All said and done, I think the APC, I'm taking this now further beyond this, the APC government has been fairly responsive to the yearnings of the youth. If you remember, under President Buhari, the not too young to run bill was signed into law, allowing young people, giving them room to participate. The rest is the attitude also of the young, of the youth, their own attitude. How well are they prepared for self-development, to be mentored? Because sometimes one is good to aspire for the ideal, but you have to go through certain tutelage. Education is one of such tutelage, and being mentored to...
Along those lines, about whether the youths really are ready to take over. Just after we take this call from Abdullahi, we'll return to you as soon as we've taken this call from Abdullahi, calling in from Abuja. Hello, Abdullahi. You there?
Hello. Good evening, everyone in the studio. And so far, so good. Everyone has spoken well in the studio. But for my own opinion, I think the major problem we are facing is the leadership crisis we are having in this country from day one. And we have to go back and check again from our constitution, because the inability of the president to attach portfolio to every minister sent to National Assembly so that they can be agree or ask irrelevant question according to the portfolio attached to them, so that at the end of the day we will not have someone who doesn't know about the particular ministry this century. And the idea of the minister, the senators asking the nominee to take a bow and go, and I think we have to look into that again. How can you tell people or the nominee to take a bow and go? That being has relevant question. If, for instance, those people are their former colleague and the rest, Nigerians may not know about them. We are just seeing them for the first time. We don't know if they are former senators and the rest. They are not from the same constituency with them. So it's important they have a relevant question. And also it's important for the president to attach portfolio to this group. So that we ask them relevant questions. And also the Nigerians should also be given opportunity to ask them questions from wherever, from every state in Nigeria. It should be just the senators alone. So I think we have to go back to the drawing board and do this all over again. Please. Thank you.
We'll return to Kano. And Ali, you were just talking about the youth themselves getting ready to take on leadership positions. And that was the point we asked you to pause while we took the call from Abdullahi. So just go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that youth, sometimes leadership, like we're all agreed here, one is not an accident, and everybody is a shepherd in their own right, from your home, but then to lead, to aspire to lead others, you have to do, it's a lot of work. And the youth, as what I was saying, is that there is this thing about attitude. They should first work on themselves, not waiting to think because they are young, the responsibilities will be thrust on their laps, just like that. They have to work, get prepared for leadership, get the requisite education, the right attitude, the right mentorship. It's only perhaps in some other climes, before you aspire to lead even a class, for example, there are certain qualities which you must demonstrate before you are allowed to even lead a class, which you graduate over time. But you just come because you are young and then you'll be given responsibilities to know. I think there are certain processes you have to go. And it's important that they get the right knowledge, the right mentorship, and the right attitude. But sometimes when the former president said something very unkind about Nigerian youth, they didn't take it kindly. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of work, they need to do a lot of work on their attitude, their own understanding. Of course, there are a lot of hardworking, enterprising young people. I have seen them. They are there, especially in digital space. They are outstanding. Beyond athletes, beyond being athletes, they have been brilliant scholars, young Nigerians, enterprising. They have made inroads, significant inroads in the digital world. But in politics, it's a totally different kettle of fish, especially. And a lot of work, they need to do a lot of work on their attitude. And also their own sense of, if you like, entitlement. This may sound uncharitable. A lot of Nigerian youth think they have this sense of entitlement. But leadership is real work. It's not for apprenticeship. Of course, you need the wisdom of the old to guide you. And of course, the exuberance of the young to have a blend, which we've seen it manifest in this list of ministers designate.
The phone lines, we have Paul calling in from Jos. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Go ahead, Paul from Jos.
My name is not Paul. My name is Kometali Sibella. I'm calling from Kepi local government in Nasarawa State.
All right, so we got two lines crossing. But anyway, go ahead. If you're calling from Nasarawa State, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. However, Mr. Senator, I want to appreciate you and the best to be in the house. You are very much welcome. More importantly, I want to believe that the government will be okay, but they have made a mistake already. That is what I have just observed. By recycling the entire members of the old cabinet, these are exactly what happened to the immediate past president, Muhammadu Buhari. Buhari used to be good, but he worked along with the bad, with the corrupt people. Same set of people again that the Bala Tinubu is also taking again, because it's working again along with the old circle of people that already have corrupt cases in their agenda. At the same time, this same set of people are also, they are highly influential. If they are corrupt, you cannot fight them. Already they are part of the government and they know those who can also defend them. And I'm advising the sitting president to extend his hand of friendship to different ministries, agencies, parastatals, teach the young, talented men and women that work along with him. He can also get academicians, politicians, businessmen, and this is how to succeed in the government by researching around this old set of people will give him failure at the end of the day. What time is it time for the young generation that we are saying these are the leaders of tomorrow? No 55 years old, no 30 years. If you say if you say the old people are giving the best experience, they also keep those guys because when they started at the initial stage, they knew nothing. But gradually, they grew into the government. They should give the younger generation opportunity so they can accept their ideas, learn from them.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, there seems to be quite a number of conversations over former office holders being in the cabinet, and that seems to be a sore point with so many, a number of those who have called in and saying, but let me put this to you. Do you think that all members who have held political positions before should not be considered in, subsequent governments?
No, if it is so, that means even from Mr. President down, including those who even contested against Mr. President, should not even have come out to contest at all. But there's something I need to express here. That's my view, that both the President and some of those who have been nominated should not be exonerated from whatever or wherever we are today in Nigeria. They were part of the system. But there's something about human life. At a certain time, you might decide to repent, redress, and take a new turn. That's my expectation from Mr. President down to every other person he has nominated. Now, our brother from Kano said that the youths are suffering from entitlement mentality, that what they need is mentorship. But I also have to say that the youths are not getting the mentorship. When you perpetuate poverty, convert the youth to thugs, what are you mentoring? If you leave these youths, now you are talking of right education, when those in government allow the universities to be closed for more than 6 months, is it caused by the youth? So, but I also think that the youths, they have the right education, they have the right knowledge, they have the right attitude. What we lack is the right mentorship.
Okay. We have a caller from Imo State, Iruchuku calling in from Imo. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, go right ahead. Good evening.
Yes, I've been listening to the conversation. So what I am saying on my own is that I am not against the ages of the people that have been so nominated. But my ground is, why must President nominate somebody who has served in the state as governor for 8 good years? And a lot of these past governors have economic and financial crimes hanging on their neck and trailing their footsteps, which has not been investigated. Are they trying to tell us that what Adam Soshomole said when he was APC national chairman, that cross over to your party and enter APC, your sins will be forgiven? Is it that they are forming a soft landing and safe haven for these governors? I'm really concerned about past governors, not the ages of the people that have been so nominated. Governors who have criminal offenses as in economic crimes, which they have perpetrated in the 8 years of their governance, which has not been investigated.
Okay.
Being given ministerial appointments, are they telling us that it is a time to reward criminality?
Well, Iwuchukwu, you know how this works. What you say, you yourself used the term, you said allegations. And that's what they are until they're proven by a court of law. So you yourself have just said allegations, so you cannot directly say it's reward for criminality. That is yet to be proved. But however, your concerns have also been mentioned by others who called in to say they'd rather political office holders in the immediate administration were not included in this list. But again, that's their opinion, and others also think otherwise. So thank you very much, Uchuku. We have calling in from Utukpo, Ernest. Go ahead.
It's okay. Well done, sir. Good morning.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. Good morning, sir.
Well, it's all right. Just go ahead.
So thank you very much. I understand. The issue here is in respect to the selection or appointment of some former governors, especially from my state. I know His Excellency Bola Tinubu is somebody that has an exceptional in terms of politics, and he came to address the issues of ethnicity and sentiment. But unfortunately, the issue, what happened to the issue of this our appointment from the state, Benue State here, who has not had clean hands during his term of 8 years in governance. His politics is nothing but all about sentiment. And this is the person that was appointed as the secretary to the government of the federation. Benue is a wide, strong state in the federation, which are made of two major ethnic groups. Where Akume was is what he is today. He chose a minister again from the ethnic group of peace. So I don't just understand. And Bola, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is someone that came to correct the illness in terms of this.
All right. Okay, Ernest, thank you very much. At this point, let's go over to a Lagos studio and talk to Dr. Tunji Abayomi. Dr. Abayomi, you've listened to a lot that has been said, especially in the matter of some ministers designate, which some of our callers have said should not be, particularly the question of governors. So if they've served for 8 years, they should not come back as ministers.
The president is obviously guided by law, and there is no law that disentitles a former governor from serving as a minister. So I don't see a basis for that kind of position. I also believe it's dangerous in a community because it may amount to violation of constitutional right in terms of fundamental rights. You have a right as a citizen to desire to be in any citizen that the law allows you to be in, and the mere fact that you have served should not be an inhibition. Now, I want to talk about this issue of youth. The gentleman that began this dialogue said the nation of our dream. I don't think there's a nation of a people's dream that excludes older people from recognition. My co-panelist from Kano spoke lucidly about this when he said that for a nation to make progress, you need the wisdom of the elders and perhaps the energy of youth. It is clear in Yoruba expression, there's this saying that a young person may have a lot of new clothes, but he cannot have as many rags as the elder. Many times they forget that experience matters. It may, in fact, be because of this issue of experience that the performance of young people in political management, political positions, have been abysmal in our country. Whether you're talking of commitment, performance, honesty, or even issue of values, because of lack of experience in many cases. So then the other issue that we must also remember is that the elder people, the older people that we're talking about now have been there for many, many years. They started from their youth fighting for liberty, fighting for progress, fighting for development. People like me, I mean, for the past almost 30 years, well over 30 years, as a matter of fact, over 40 years, we've been in the trenches fighting for the greatness of this nation with 3 detentions, one for 1 year, the third one in just prison, and we are still working for the greatness of Nigeria. Can you now turn around and say, because I'm old, I'm over 70 now, I'm not relevant to the issue of the nation? I don't think so. Shall you now say that I should be locked up in the room while my children are allowed to move around? Well, in that room, they may need the inspiration from that room where I'm locked up in order to understand the challenges, the human challenges of a nation. So, in my view, the issue is not about age. America today is a nation that promotes youth immensely, perhaps more than any other nation in the world. But the president of America is going to run again. He's over 80. The other one, Trump, is, I think, 76. And you go around. So let us, in my views, we spend too much time on what I call meta-legal factors. Like Albert Einstein said, things that matter don't count. Things that count don't matter. I don't think age, youth, and so on and so forth are issues that count. What is essential is the person, his values, his commitment, his vision. For example, look at Nigeria. Why, for example, is it that this nation is divided? There are simple issues that could unite us. Why should we, for example, as a people, not be able to study? Why should our children from primary school not be able to study more than one language apart from their own language? Why should a Yoruba child not be able, compelled to study Hausa and Igbo? Why should a Hausa child in the north not be compelled to study Yoruba or Igbo? Why should an Igbo child not be compelled to study Yoruba or Hausa in order to build unity? If we do that, simple issue that will create triumph of unity in our nation. So let us forget, in my view, we spent a lot of time on issue of youth or no youth and so on and so forth. There are older people that are youthful, and there are young people that are oldish. Let us understand that. It depends on the capacity of the mind, capacity of the head, the energy, the capacity, the agility, and many other issues like that. The intellect too.
Dr. Tunji Abayomi, well, we just have a few minutes left on the program, and so we'll begin to take our closing comments now from our guests. Let's begin with Ali in our Kano studio as we wind down.
Well, I would say that Nigerians should not lose hope that the great expectation, like Dr. Abayomi has repeatedly said, will be met. I'm absolutely positive. You know, it's like a locomotive train before it gathers steam. And we're at the tipping end now. Once the cabinet has been inaugurated, then the president will have the full complement of a federal executive council, followed by head of parastatals and the boards, and then we have the government will go into full swing. So Nigerians should be tolerant, a little bit of more patient, and then before they know it, we get to that dreamland, hopefully.
All right. So thank you. And back here in the studio, Dr. Brickforth.
Yeah, I want to say that there's hope for our nation. Nigeria is a great country in Africa, still remains the greatest and giant of Africa. We must all put our hands on deck to make Nigeria work. We must support Mr. President, support his cabinet, and the National Assembly, even both at the state level, to see that we all put our hands on the deck to help our country. Nigeria is a wonderful country. We have all it takes to become the giant of the world. Nigeria has all the resources, human resources, mineral resources, name them, human capacity, and this is a great nation. Nigeria must work. And this government is in for it. We'll support them.
Thank you. McDonald.
Okay, my expectations are very high. So my take is that Mr. President should assign ministers where they are most competent. Then for the ministers, you are there to serve Nigerians. So patriotism is key. And again, I will not fail to say, please, Mr. President, let the man from FCT man the FCT ministry.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you very much. But just one more thing we would still want Dr. Abayomi to clarify here, and that is from the point of law. Dr. Tunji Abayomi in Lagos, from the point of law, we've heard a lot of it tonight on this program, especially in the phone-ins. The question of allegations and the feeling that there are a number of people who have committed certain offenses in certain places, and therefore they make the lists unacceptable. What does the law say about allegations?
Allegation is allegation. A man is held responsible if he's convicted of an offense under the law. Let us remember that the law says a man is actually even innocent, is presumed to be innocent, until he goes through the crucible of trial. You know, so that's why in America it says that our government may be a government of law and not of men. So making allegations, anybody can say anything with due respect. We tend, because of a lot of distrust in government, particularly, and government agents, government leaders in our country, tend to say also, I'm a pro-chancellor of a university, Adekunle Ajayi University, and I know there are lots of all sorts of allegations. There were even a time when they said the university bought a 4-bedroom for 600 million naira, when we are even struggling to get sitting allowance. So I do not understand. People make all sorts of allegations with due respect, but I think because of disbelief in the system and distrust in the system, that's the problem. So having said that, let me just also conclude, make my expression if you don't mind. I think the president needs to keep assuring our people that they have a great nation and is committed to make it greater. Number one. Number two, the president, in my view, needs to focus on the government leaders. If we have a nation where, for example, The head of Accountant General of the nation, is alleged to have embezzled huge amount of money, or where leaders over pensions is taking all the wealth of the nation, you begin to ask what kind of system allows this kind of abnormal behavior. Something is wrong with the system. We need to build personalities that protect institutional integrity in our nation, so that people within that system can stand up for something, even against their leaders. That's what we need to do. If we don't do that, even if you raise wealth, you have capacity, you have everything will be defeated, because human beings matter. And the only way a human being can change this nation is to be committed to values. If we don't have people in government that are committed to great values, there's not going to be progress for Nigeria.
And it is on that note we'll say thank you very much, Dr. Tunji Abayomi, a constitutional lawyer who joined us from our Lagos studio. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Thank you. Let me also extend my thanks to Ali M. Ali, former Deputy Director of Media and Publicity in the dissolved APC-PCC. He joined us from our Kano studio. Ali, it's always a delight to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
And back here in the Abuja studio, let me say a big thank you to Dr. Amobuya Abraham Breakforth, Director General, New Dream for Grassroots Development. Thank you for being here.
Very much. Thank you.
And thanks also to MacDonald Ikemizi, Program Communication Manager, Center for Transparency Advocacy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Right.
For the privilege.
And thank you too for being part of this program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.
Okay.